What do we do when the thing that keeps us awake is our fear of not sleeping? Most of us will know the frustration of desperately needing and trying to get to sleep, only to end up lying awake for hours. That's okay if that happens every now and again, but if this happens too often, we can end up getting so used to struggling to sleep that we start to expect the struggle, and then the thing that keeps us awake is our anxiety about that struggle. I'm Tim Box, mind coach, and this is Sleep Anxiety and what you need to know to beat it. So welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time, I'm Tim Box, I'm a mind coach, and for the last 12 years or so I've been working with people to help them overcome all sorts of emotional and psychological issues, and in particular helping people to get control of anxiety. Now, you may have watched a couple of my other videos I made recently all about the times when anxiety kept us awake and how we effectively switch our mind off in the face of rumination and perpetual overthinking. But there's a good reason why I've already made 2 videos about this topic. It's because sleep is important. Lack of sleep is a huge contributing factor to any psychological or emotional struggles that we face. And very often one of the first key steps to getting back in control of our mental health is to get regular restorative sleep. However, that's kind of the problem. We're all so aware of the importance of sleep that it's really easy to end up placing too much importance on it, to the point where it's the main thing we're worrying about, and thus the primary cause of our insomnia. When we have a history of sleep problems, especially prolonged periods of struggle and the physical and emotional fallout of that, we can end up becoming extremely anxious as we go to bed each night. We might start to obsess slightly about maintaining the perfect environment for sleep and making sure our evening routine runs smoothly and without any unplanned interruptions. We might find ourselves becoming increasingly anxious if we don't instantly fall asleep when our head hits the pillow, fearing this might mean another long night lying awake. Of course, all of this over-analysis creates the exact response we're trying to avoid. As our anxiety increases, so does our production of cortisol, the stress hormone, thus preventing us from easily falling asleep. It's important to remember that sleep isn't something we do, which is why the harder we try to sleep, the more awake we become. Sleep is something that happens when we stop doing, both physically and mentally. When it gets dark, we naturally produce melatonin, and that's what effectively puts us to sleep, as long as we're not producing too much cortisol. But how can we stop stressing when we're not sleeping and sleep is so important? Okay, let's back up a little bit. Yes, sleep is important, but whether you sleep tonight isn't a matter of life or death. It's not even close. In fact, whether or not you sleep your full 8 hours on this particular night, on this day of this week, of this month, of this year, contributes to barely a scratch on the surface of your overall long-term well-being. Yes, tonight's sleep does have an impact on how we feel tomorrow, but not to the degree that it's worth lying awake worrying about. You see, you can't really consciously just choose to sleep at will, but something you can choose to do is rest. And if you're not sleeping, then resting is the next best thing. When you think about it, when in our daily lives do we get the chance to lie down in a comfortable place with no distractions taking up our attention, nobody demanding things of us, nothing to do or think about, and simply treat ourselves to some well-earned rest? Probably the last time we did that was whenever we were last on holiday, and with the state of the world right now, that might have been a while ago. But when you think about it, you have the opportunity to do that every night. When we're in our bed at night, we have potentially 7 or 8 hours of pure me time. We might be there to sleep, but if for some reason that's not happening, then we're probably best off simply enjoying the time we have to rest our body and mind and enjoy some peaceful recuperation. Allow yourself to consciously enjoy the time to yourself and the peace of some emotional and mental space where nobody is making demands of you. We might be used to becoming increasingly frustrated if we haven't fallen asleep fast enough, but why? If we're doing nothing, we're still recharging in some way, and you don't see people tossing and turning on their sun lounger on the beach, frustrated that they're still conscious. They're enjoying their break from the daily grind. You can do that every night if you allow yourself to. If laying in bed and still being conscious is going to stress us out, then we'll remain stressed and remain awake. If there's actually nothing wrong with laying awake at night, then maybe we can stop stressing about it. The funny thing is that when we stop stressing about whether or not we're still awake, we tend to doze off pretty quickly. Resting naturally turns into sleeping when we're not stressing about still being awake. But you might be watching this video and thinking that it's not as simple as that because you only have a limited amount of time available to get some solid deep sleep. After all, you have to be up at a certain time and you don't function well when you're tired. Firstly, you'll be surprised how much better you function after a night's rest instead of a night's stressing. And secondly, the simplest and often best way to solve that problem is to increase the amount of time you put in your schedule to be in bed. How often is the time we go to bed decided by calculating a 7 or 8 hour window prior to when we have to get up in the morning? Even before we close our eyes, we put pressure on ourselves to get to sleep straight away and to sleep soundly all the way through the night, or we'll very probably be tired tomorrow. Then we end up doing that thing of continually checking the clock to see what time it is now, and then recalculating how much sleep that would equate to if we got to sleep right now, which in turn stresses us out and stops us getting to sleep. A top tip here is to add some rest time to your sleep time. Add an hour or more onto the time you're expecting to spend in bed and relieve yourself of any pressure to get to sleep straight away. Then you can allow yourself to be awake and enjoying your rest without getting stressed about still being conscious. An early night isn't always about getting to sleep early, it's about prioritizing your rest so that your mind is free to shut down at its own pace without any unnecessary pressure. One last thing to mention is that when we've got a long time with a history of disturbed or poor sleep patterns, then it's perfectly natural to find ourselves almost in the habit of not sleeping. Our mind's probably gotten used to becoming active when we lie in bed and is now triggering certain thought processes as soon as our head hits the pillow. Try and avoid getting frustrated with yourself for this. Everyone has bad nights at times, and it's okay for your mind to need a bit of time to get back into the habit of sleeping well and shutting down. It's only any continued frustration we feel about remaining awake for too long, or any trepidation we feel about any upcoming struggle, that actually perpetuates this habit. If we can frame our time in bed a little more positively and take it as an opportunity to rest, then we can cut out any fear or anger and just be. That tends to create the perfect environment psychologically to break that habit and just drift off to sleep. If the stress of whether or not you're going to sleep well tonight is what keeps you awake, then take that pressure off of yourself. Your bed is meant to be a haven where you can have peaceful time to rest, not a battleground where you go to war with yourself every night. When people like me talk about the importance of sleep, we're really only talking about the importance of prioritizing downtime, time to recharge. We're not suggesting we need to get stressed about the quality and quantity of our sleep to the point where it becomes a huge concern. We're simply encouraging people to give themselves time and space to rest at the end of the day. When we start to look forward to the time we spend in bed instead of dreading it, you'll be surprised how quickly we can fall asleep. The simple truth is that it's actually quite hard to stay awake when you're tired and at peace. It tends to happen naturally without us even noticing. Check out my other 2 videos in this series that talk about dealing with those times when we find ourselves ruminating on past events or worrying about what might happen in the future. I'll link to them at the end of this one. But now, it's over to you. Did this video resonate with you? What do you do that helps you sleep? Is there something that you've changed or are going to change from now on to help you sleep? Let me know in the comments. I hope this video has been of value. If you have any questions, then put them in the comments as well, and I'll do my best to answer all of them. Please hit that thumbs up button if you like what I do, and why not subscribe to the channel for weekly mind management tips and anxiety advice. But that's it for now. I'm Tim Box, Mind Coach. Always remember to be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.